Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker, shills, nuts, lacers, spices, battles, opinions. I'm a useful idiot. Welcome. And today I want to talk about the Ukraine propaganda clusterfuck. And that's the only thing I can really safely characterize it as, because when you look at all the cast of characters and everybody's getting in on it, and it's also operating in a whole bunch of different levels, which I'll get to in a minute. And but at the heart of this is this entire focus on Russia today, and then we have of course, the famous reporters Liz Wall and Abby Martin. Abby Martin speaking out against the Russian intervention, and Liz Wall resigning. And I have my own feelings about what those operations are about, and I'm just going to suggest my opinions. So, first of all, we have Abby Martin, who conceivably can be being allowed to champion her own editorial viewpoint in order to show just how much more free Russia today is than Western press, because that wouldn't happen on Western press. So that's one theory. And my theory on Liz Wall is the fact that she saw all the attention that Abby Martin got from her move, and decided to take her chance, get a high profile, and jump off to a much higher paying and much more high profile gig at a place like CNN. And recent clips of her appearances seem to bear out that sort of opinion. And then on top of that, we have all the politicians coming out. Well, wait a minute. Before I get to the politicians, let me talk about the media some more. So we have the whole Russia Today angle on the events in the Ukraine, and then we have the U.S. and Western press angle on all the events in the Ukraine. And somewhere in between lies the truth. And let's remember that. So those who tend to dismiss Russia Today as nothing but Russian propaganda, and those who dismiss U.S. Television and media as American propaganda, well, for one thing, they're both right. But second of all, it's important to realize that all propaganda is not to be dismissed. And in fact, when that term first came into use, it was considered a positive term and not a negative term. It was just considered information. And so let's think of it in that way. If we're bright enough to follow all these world events, we should be bright enough to be able to pick and choose where the truth lies, looking at both these media. So there's value in Russia Today, and there's value in Western media, if nothing else, to see what kind of slop is being thrown into the trough for the masses. And so I think it's important to pick and choose. If you know that Russia is going to try and air out as much dirty laundry about America as possible, why not use that as a source to find out what's wrong in our own country, and vice versa. American media certainly is going to pick out all the worst elements of Russian society and amplify that, and that way we can all focus on what the weaknesses are in Russia. So I'm just saying, going through all sources. And speaking of those sources, you also have alternative media. We have all the usual alternative media out there frothing at the mouth and declaring World War III just around the corner, like they always do, with their deadly serious voices and their sinister music. And I just can't join that World War III crowd. So, but they are also cashing in. They are also a media that is cashing in on these events. And of course, it behooves them to make their most dramatic spin about World War III as much as possible, because it gains them subscribers and viewers, which obviously is not one of my concerns. And we even have one YouTuber who put up a video that said we will put, declaring that Putin said that we will put their women and children in front of our troops, unquote. But of course, it's completely mistranslated, and it said nothing like that. But I think the propaganda war on this is as remarkable as I've seen anywhere, but we're also seeing a trend. There was also a propaganda clusterfuck, much like this, going on in Syria, and I want to talk about this in the big context, but I'll get to that in a minute. First of all, I want to go through all these quotes from all these politicians I was alluding to earlier. So we have John Kerry out there saying, quote, "You don't just invade a country on a phony pretext," unquote, which of course is the height of hypocrisy. And he talked about it's a 19th century behavior. And considering the United States empire is acting like the British Empire, I would say that the United States is exemplifying 19th century behavior. And then Hillary Clinton, of course, usually tops them all in a private fundraiser. She compared Putin to Adolf Hitler and his population transfers, which of course is ridiculous. But one of the best tools of all when you want to discredit somebody like Manuel Noriega in Panama, for example, saying he had pictures of Hitler on his desk. So, Saddam Hussein was the next Hitler, and so forth. And then we have Barack Obama coming out saying, quote, "No country has the right to send troops to another country unprovoked," unquote. So he's joining John Kerry hand in hand at the height of hypocrisy, basically outlining American foreign policy and criticizing Russia when they wield the exact same policy. And then we got Lindsey Graham in a tweet, a special tweet that Twits use. He said that, quote, "It started with Benghazi. When you kill Americans and nobody pays a price, you invite this type of aggression," unquote. So he says that because of Benghazi, that's why the Ukraine happened. And when you kill Americans, nobody pays a price. You invite aggression. And so I see somehow, I'm not sure how his mind works to make these kind of connections, but he is fixated on Benghazi. And then McCain, Lindsey Graham's best buddy, said that, quote, I do not see a military option here, and it's tragic. I wish that there was one," unquote. So he wants another war so bad he can taste it. And he even went over there and tried to stir things up personally. And so there's the parade of politicians. But what I wanted to talk about in the big scheme of things is this era we live in when propaganda is such a huge part. And any study of history and any study of warfare shows that the demonization of your adversary and their country and their culture has a long and illustrious history, and certainly reached its peak around the turn of the century when racism was an inherent element of empire building and conflicts, colonial conflicts all over the globe. But now we live in this era where propaganda is used to the point where we see fake riots, including with fake wounded, being filmed in Syria. We see a situation in Ukraine where snipers are used just to antagonize event and to reveal and invoke elements to unfold in a desired direction. And this whole idea that we have manufactured revolutions. When you look at Egypt and Ukraine and Syria, and we see the way that these groups, NGOs like Canvas, get in there and foment revolution and train revolutionaries, and then these same groups are bankrolled by foreign governments, including Saudi Arabia, Israel, the United States, and the UK. And then the right events take place, the right provocation, the right agent provocateurs at the right place at the right time can unleash revolutions. And Egypt, Ukraine, and Syria are examples of manufactured revolutions. And propaganda is a huge, huge tool in this. And so when the Canvas group can talk about motivating a group of 12 and becoming 70,000 in a short amount of time, you put that many people out on the street anywhere, and you can convince people it's a revolution. And that's all it takes to unleash a groundswell if the dissatisfaction is already there. And certainly the events that unfolded in Kiev with the snipers, and that's an interesting story in itself, finding out through that phone call with an Estonian diplomat that It seems quite plausible that the opposition themselves placed these agent provocateurs, these snipers who shot at both police and protesters and innocent bystanders as well, in order to provoke what turned into a revolution. And and then we have the crowd who are saying that the Ukrainian situation is unfolding this way, and the situation in Crimea, because Obama is a weak president, and that's really not true either. I mean, the entire post-Vietnam era has been marked with an American reticence that even though initially the first Gulf War, the first Iraq War, seemed to take care of that post-Vietnam trauma for a lot of people. The results of the last Iraq War, of course, have hammered those back home. So it's sorry for all the warmongers like Lindsey Graham and John McCain, but war is not as easily sold these days. And so there we have it. We have a huge media propaganda clusterfuck going on. Everyone in media, everyone in government, everyone in alternative media, everyone in on this feeding frenzy with their own agendas. And I'm certainly no different, am I? I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.